point of this assignment is for you to learn how to work with text over images and text with images, which is an important skill whenever you're doing any type of desktop publishing, any type of design work, is to be able to integrate text and images and other backgrounds in order to make that text readable and be able to stand out. And we're just going to practice this by working on a few different types of memes. So I know all of you are familiar with memes, and we've certainly become more familiar with them at this time. So what we're going to be doing is working through a number of different scenarios where you would be adding text to a meme. And there's three different options for this, and I'm going to get you to do an example of all three. One is where you're adding text into a blank space next to the picture, which is a common one. Another one is fitting the text into a blank space that's kind of limited in space or at an angle. And that is the second one. And then the last one is actually placing the text directly over top of the image. So I'll do an example of the first one. So you start off on this presentation in the title slide, and then the examples are on slide 2, or the instructions, sorry, are on slide 2. And then you move into slide 3, which is the first type of meme that I want you to do. And that is where you aren't really limited by anything. You just have an empty block of space next to your pictures where you're going to add your text in. So I'm going to do an example for that. And what you want to do is you want to choose which one of these that you want to make your meme for. And you're not being marked based on how funny or entertaining they are, although I'm certainly interested to see them. It's more to look at how well you do at actually adding the text in. So you're going to choose one, which means you can delete the other ones. So I'm going to delete the other ones that I'm not going to use. And then the one that I'm going to use, I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger so that it's nice and clear to see. And I can get rid of the text that's up there. So I'm going to add my own in, and then I'm going to add in my text. So you can watch along as I add the text in here, and just for my example. All right, so for this one, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a text box. Now, there's two different ways that you can add text in. One is you can add in a text box, and the other way is that you can insert something called word art, which is a little fancier text. For this one here, I don't really need the fancy text, although you can. So I'm just going to use the text box to add that text in. All right, so I've added in my text. Now I want to make it stand out a little bit more. And to do that, I'm going to change my font, and I'm going to change the size, make it a little bit bolder. All right, so I added in my changes that I wanted to make. I chose two different fonts, one more of a handwriting font, the other two more title style sans serif fonts. And I made the title ones a little bit bolder and a little bit larger than the other font. And then I just pushed the other font in just to show that it was a conversation and where it was coming from, and just to use the space a little bit better. So that's everything for the first one. All right, so for the second one, you're adding text in again, but this time you're adding it into a space that's either confined by the design of the meme, like in this one here on the sign, or in the Uno card, or in the bubble here, or it's confined as well by the fact that it's on an angle. So we've got the change my mind one, and then the choice button here. So we're going to add text to one of these, and then if necessary, we'll rotate it to fit the space and make sure that we resize the text in the text box so that it fits within the space and looks natural. Okay, one additional change that I'm going to make to this is that when I resize this picture, it's not really going to fit well into the space that I have, and that the space that my text is going to go is quite small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make a copy of this and then crop it down so I can put these two pictures side to side rather than one on top of the other, just to allow me to use my space a little bit better. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to double click just to crop this. And then I'm going to crop this down so that I just see that. And then I'm going to quick copy this by holding down Control, drag a copy of that over. And again, I'm going to double click on it to bring up the crop menu. And then I'm just going to move that picture up to the second space, so I can see the one that I want in that window. Okay, so now I've got the two of them, and I'm just going to put them next to each other. And then I'm just going to resize them now and make them a little bit bigger to fit into the space that I have. There we go. I get a little bit bigger. Okay, now I'm going to add in my text. Again, for this one, I'm going to use a text box. Okay, now to rotate text, when you click on the text box, there's a little blue ball at the top, and we can rotate that around until we get to an angle that's close to the space that we want it to be in. And then I'm also going to center align this font just to make it fit the space a little bit better. And then again, I'm going to change the type of font, and if necessary, change the size of the font so that it fits naturally into the space. And then I'm going to copy this again by doing quick copy by holding down the control button. That saves me having to do everything again, and then type in my second option. Okay, so now I've got my text added, I've got it rotated, and I've got it looking the way I want it to look. So we're all done the second one. So the last one that we're going to be working on is adding text over top of an image. And this is the most complicated one because when you place text over top of an image, you're dealing with all the background colors that are in that image, which can often create conflict with the text itself. So we are going to be working on some different ways that we can make that text stand out with a complex background. So again, we're going to select the one that we want. Lots of interesting ones here. And I'm going to select this one here, resize it to fit the space. Then I'm going to add in my text. This time I am going to use the word art because the word art does give me some extra bit of flexibility in how I design it. It not only allows me to change the font color and add backgrounds, but it also allows me to add an outline around the text, which gives me a little more of a pop on the text when I try and make it stand out over an image. So I'm going to insert the word art and add my text. One of the things that I've done here is I've been able to add spaces inside of this. Now, if you just press enter, it'll close the box. So it says right in the instructions, if you press shift enter, that'll allow you to add more than one line. So I've done that several places here just to try and make that text fit into a little more concise space. So now basically once I have the text in there, I can treat this like an image. I can resize it, and it will resize that text to fit into the space without having to change the text size. And I'm going to change that font, something a little bit bolder, and then I'm going to change the color of it. I'm going to change the color of this font to white, and then I'll give it an outline color. And then I'm also going to go to the format options to add a drop shadow to that. So the drop shadow that I'm going to add to this, I'll go with something that's a light blue. And then I'm going to make sure that the transparency is set to 0 so it stands out. And then I can also play around with the blur radius and distance and those things. Okay, so now that stands out pretty well, but I can add some other stuff in to make that stand out a little bit more. I can add a box behind it. And some of the boxes you can get are actually the speech bubbles. So I'm going to go into the shapes and callouts, and I'm going to go and get a speech bubble to add to that. And I'm going to drag that around my text. And I'm going to place that behind the text by using the Control and the arrow button. If I hold down the Control button and press the down arrow, that'll move that behind it. And then I'm just going to drag the speech bubble over to Harold here so that it looks like he's the one talking. And then the speech bubble itself, I'm going to actually make it semi-transparent so that it doesn't completely get rid of or cover over the background. I'm going to do that by going to the paint bucket and custom. And I can just drag that transparency slider down a little bit. And I'm actually going to change it from gray to white as well. And I'll get that down maybe 3/4 of the way down. So now you can still see a little bit of the background, so it's not quite as intrusive, but it still allows that text to stand out a little better. And I'm going to change the line color as well, just to be consistent with my other colors that I've been using. And so now I'm going to add in this response as well down below. And again, I can just quick copy this text down here. And I'm going to resize that since I only put in one word. Make it a little smaller. There we go. And this time, he's not going to be saying that out loud. He's going to be using a thought bubble rather than a speech bubble. So I'll use the thought bubble. And same thing, send it in behind the text. Make sure it's Harold that's thinking this. And then I am going to make it transparent. Okay, and then once I have all that done, then I can turn the assignment in. All right, look forward to seeing your memes.